Good evening, everybody. My name is Reverend Jazz. I'm from Love Like Jesus Ministry. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Biblical Truths. So today we're going to be looking at biblical principles for work and business. And what we're discussing today is, does the way you work honor God? Right. So this is more so a question of for employees working for you. Okay. So now let me ask you a serious question. If Jesus reviewed the way you work this week, what would he see? Not what your boss saw, not what your manager saw, not what your pastor or ministry leader saw. What would Jesus see? Because it's very easy to say, I've been busy, I've been working all day, and I've so much to do. But being busy does not necessarily mean that you are being productive. And being busy does not mean you cannot be underperforming. You can be busy doing the wrong thing. You can be busy without completing what you were asked to complete. You can be busy while deadlines are being missed. You can be busy while somebody else constantly has to chase you. You can be busy without producing the results your role exists to produce. So the biblical question isn't simply, were you busy? It's, were you faithful? Were you fruitful? Were you trustworthy? Did you work with integrity? Were you accountable? And particularly if your work is involved in kingdom work, do you really believe God is watching? Now, I want to go through something, and I say this quite often. God is a God of order. If we go to 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 33, that tells us that God is not a God of disorder, but of peace. That verse is speaking about order within the church gathering, but throughout scripture, we see principles of order, responsibility, and stewardship. Look at creation itself. God didn't create randomly. There was an order, there were stages, and God looked at what he had made and evaluated it. So why would we think that planning, structure, and reviewing our work doesn't matter? Jesus himself spoke about counting the cost before building in Luke chapter 14, verse 28. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5 teaches that good planning and hard work lead somewhere, while hasty shortcuts have consequences. So prayer does not replace planning. Faith doesn't mean I'll just do whatever I feel like doing and God will sort everything else out, or my manager will sort everything else out. There should be a plan. There should be responsibility. There should be systems, and there should be review. What did we plan to accomplish? What actually did we accomplish? And what actually happened? What went wrong? Why it went wrong? What needs changing? What needs doing next? That's wisdom. Now let's look at what happens when everybody starts doing their own thing. Imagine somebody employs 5 people. There's a procedure, there's a system. If everybody knows their responsibility, but one person decides, I'm doing it my way. Another doesn't report problems. Another turns up whenever they want. Another misses deadlines. Another doesn't check their work. Another covers for their colleagues when their colleague is not working and sometimes sleeping. Eventually, what you've got, disorder. Systems only work when people take responsibility for their part in them. What does the Bible say about authority? Romans chapter 13 verse 1 teaches about governing authorities established within God's order. So for the workplace, Colossians chapter 3 gives an even more direct principle. Galatians chapter 3 verses 22 to 24 tells workers not to work properly only when somebody is watching them. And verse 23 tells us, whatever you do, work at it willingly as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Think about what that means. Your boss isn't there. Your manager isn't checking. You're working remotely. Nobody knows whether you have disappeared for an hour. Nobody knows whether you actually started at 9 o'clock. Nobody knows whether the system really went down for as long as you said. But the Christian question is not, can my boss prove it? The Christian question is, do I believe God saw it? Because scripture says ultimately you are serving Christ. And yes, leaders have responsibilities too. Biblical authoritarian means a leader can abuse people. A good leader should be compassionate. A good leader should listen. A good leader should teach. A good leader should give people opportunities. A good leader should treat people fairly. A good leader is accountable to God too. And if somebody tells you to sin or to do something contrary to God, human authority does not outrank God. And if your leader is doing all those things, and you're not being faithful to your leader, and you're not producing results for your leader, then you need to kind of question why. What is the matter? Why is this here? What is not being followed? Why is it not being followed? Why are results not being produced? And now let's look at the other side. When you've got somebody who's trying to lead you properly, somebody who gives you an opportunity, somebody who pays you, somebody who trains you, somebody who shows you patience, somebody gives you another chance when you make a mistake. What are you doing with that opportunity? Obedience is better than a sacrifice. See, in 1 Samuel chapter 15, Saul was given an instruction. Saul didn't simply do nothing. He did plenty, but he didn't do what God actually instructed him to do. And when Samuel challenged him, Saul had explanations, but Samuel gave him the famous truth. Obedience is better than sacrifice. There's a workplace lesson there. Someone says, but look how much I've done. Okay, but did you do what you were actually responsible for? Was you listening, or was you too busy working? And you couldn't be bothered to listen. You can spend an entire day working extremely hard on something nobody asked you to do, or what you think they asked you to do, while the important assignment remains unfinished. Activity is not automatically obedience, and activity is not automatically productivity. Are you listening, or have you already decided you know better? So your manager is explaining something, your leader is giving you instructions, but you're not really listening. In your mind, you're already saying, I know, I've got a better way. Let me just get on with it. I need to get on with it. He's going on and on and on and on and on and on. He does this all the time. But look, I've got to get this finished. I just want to get this finished. I want to get the job done. And so, I don't need to tell that right. So then what happens? You miss things. Right? And then again, some people that I don't need them telling me this. Right? So they think, well, I don't need. He keeps telling me the same thing again and again and again. Proverbs repeatedly warns us about refusing correction and instruction. Proverbs chapter 19:20 tells us to listen to advice and accept instructions. And Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5-6 tells us, do not simply lean on your own understanding. That doesn't mean your boss is always right. But there's a difference between respectfully questioning something and having attitude that says nobody can tell me anything. And also, when you're mumbling up there, but you really got your hand over the mouth and mumbling with your kind of thing, it's a complete and utter disrespect. Complete and utter disrespect. You think, and you just kind of get up and go. Complete and utter disrespect to your employer, to your boss, to your leader, or if that's up there. And these are distractions. And then some people, if you try to correct them, they get offended. Well, nobody can tell me anything. Sometimes what we call independence is actually pride. So sometimes when you point it out and you see something and you think, why are you turning around telling us? Why are you turning around doing this? Right? And so we need to kind of be, we need to kind of look at these things. Now let's look at this. What happens when people are 5 minutes late? Or 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late? Some people half an hour late. Some even 45 minutes late. Some even an hour late. Right? Someone might say it's only 5 minutes, and once because something unexpected happened. Of course things happen, but 5 minutes every day, 10 minutes every day, leaving early repeatedly, coming and going whenever you want, being unavailable during working hours without telling anybody. Right? Now, we're not talking about one incident. We're talking about a pattern of faithfulness. So when your boss is expecting you, when your leader is expecting you to be somewhere and you're not, and then you're coming up with excuses, I had to go here, I had to do this, I had to do this. And so this is a really big problem with remote working, right? With remote working where people think they can get away with things, right? So these small things. So Luke chapter 16:10 says, something. When we talk about pattern faithfulness, right? Luke chapter 16:10 says that somebody faithful in little things would also be faithful in larger things. Small things reveal character. So here's a difficult question. So people may think, oh, it's only 5 minutes, it's only 10 minutes, it's only 15 minutes. Why are you asking God for something bigger while being careless with something small He's already allowed you to have? So you could be blocking you could be blocking your leader's blessings. You could be blocking your own blessings. You could be blocking your manager's blessings. You could be blocking, your boss's blessings, right? And because God will not move forward, right? Because of your disobedience, your unfaithfulness, you're overlooking things, right? Because you're thinking to yourself, it's okay, nobody's watching me, right? And when you're covering for somebody, you are lying on behalf of that person as well. You're lying on behalf of that person as well. You need to learn to become God pleasers, not people pleasers, right? And so now, look, what? So Lord, give what? So many people say, Lord, give me my own business, but you're continually late working in somebody else's. Lord, give me people to lead, but you won't listen to the person leading you. Lord, give me greater responsibility, but people cannot trust you with the responsibility you've already got. Before asking God for more, ask, am I faithful with what I have? Am I faithful to the one that is providing for me? When something goes wrong, report it. Systems fail, internet connections go down, computers break, people become ill, emergencies happen. The issue isn't automatically that something went wrong. The question is, what did you do when it happened? Did you tell somebody? Did you report it? Did you ask what should be done instead? Did you keep people informed? Did you keep your manager informed? Or did you think nobody knows, so it doesn't matter? There's a difference between something going wrong and hiding what went wrong. Biblical integrity requires truthfulness and it requires transparency. By not telling this, right? This is what is very bordering dishonesty. And again, as I said again, don't cover somebody else's dishonesty. Supporting your colleagues is good. Helping somebody through a difficult situation is good. Showing compassion is good. But suppose your colleague wasn't working and says, don't tell the boss, or what, and you knowingly help create that impression that they were working. That's different. Now you're participating in the deception. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 25 tells us believers to put away falsehood and speak truthfully. Proverbs chapter 12:22 tells us how seriously God regards lying. So remember this, loyalty does not require dishonesty. You don't have to lie to be somebody's friend, and you certainly shouldn't deceive somebody else to protect another person's wrongdoing. So check now. Let's look at checking your work. Another person says finished, but did you check it? Did you read it back? Did you test it? Did you compare it against what you were asked to do? Did you ask whether it actually works, or does somebody else have to continually discover your mistakes? Scripture praises diligence and skill. Proverbs chapter 22:29 talks about somebody skilled in their work. Checking your work is part of taking responsibility for your work. Don't make somebody else your permanent quality control department because you can't be bothered to check what you produce. Now let's look into that. Now we're going to look into don't just wait to be told everything. There's another major difference between merely doing tasks and taking responsibility. Something goes wrong and you stop. Nobody gets told. Then somebody asks, why didn't you tell me? I didn't know I was supposed to. Why didn't you follow up? You didn't tell me. Why didn't you check? You didn't tell me. Eventually, somebody else will do all the thinking for you. Proverbs teaches prudence. Thinking ahead, understanding where you're going and recognizing problems before they become bigger problems. A good worker doesn't merely ask, what task have I been given? They also think, what are we actually trying to achieve? What could prevent us achieving it? What do I need to communicate? What should I check? What happens next? That takes ownership. Now, let's look into deadlines mean something. Many people, it doesn't mean deadlines don't mean to them because it's not their money on the stake. It's not there, right there. So if you say, I'll have it done by Friday, and Friday comes in and it isn't done, communicate. Don't disappear. Don't wait until Monday. Don't wait until somebody has to chase you. Jesus taught the importance of our yes meaning a yes and our no meaning a no. If you made a commitment, take that commitment seriously. And if circumstances mean you generally cannot meet it, tell somebody before the deadline. Wherever reasonably possible. That's accountability. Because many people, what they do is that they don't be bothered. You kind of go home, right, and then you've got to be chased, and then you're like, oh my God, why is this person keep after me? Why they're after this? Right, you're sitting there, allowing things to happen, right, and let mistakes slip in. Now let's talk about being busy. This is where some of us really need to examine ourselves. You work 8 hours and accomplish very little. You can send 100 emails that produce nothing. You can attend meetings all day. You spend hours perfecting something that wasn't important. You can continue to tell everybody, I'm so busy, but here's a question. What fruit did your work produce? Now, I'm not saying every biblical reference to fruit is talking about business targets. It isn't. And results alone aren't the biblical definition of success, but there's still an important principle here. Work should accomplish the purpose for which it was undertaken. Jesus spoke in John chapter 17 verse 4 about completing the work the Father had given him. So don't confuse movement with progress, activity with achievement, or busyness with fruitfulness. If you're employed in sales, there should ultimately be sales activity that moves towards results. If your role is outreach should actually happen. If you're responsible for administration, things should be organized. If you're responsible for completing a project should move towards completion. You cannot indefinitely say, but I've been really busy, while everything you're responsible for remains unfinished. Right, and again, sometimes what may take priority in the morning, right, something else comes in, right. So you've got to put it to one side. If you had to put something to one side, and you need to go back to it afterwards as well. You need to kind of see, because everything is important. Now let's look into results matter, but results aren't everything, and we need balance here. You can hit a sales target by lying. That's not biblical success. You can build a huge organization by exploiting people. That's not biblical success. You can grow a ministry using manipulation. That's not biblical success. So the standard isn't merely results. It's faithfulness plus fruit plus integrity plus accountability. Faithfulness, right? Did I properly handle what was entrusted to me? Now let's look at fruit. Did my work actually accomplish what it was supposed to accomplish? Integrity, did I do it honestly and in a way that honors God? Accountability, did I take responsibility, communicate, and own what happened, including when things went wrong? Right. So now, many times people, as I said, people they're looking busy, whatever, but they're forgetting what the end goal is. So if you're not achieving the end goal, if you're not you're not getting to the end goal, then you failed. And you repeatedly are not getting into the end goal, then it's a failure. And especially if there's no return on investment, if there's not a cash flow for your business, if there's not a cash flow, you're failing. As simple as that. You're getting yourself in more and more and more debt. Right, and so this is why you need to be working as a team. You need to be looking at where are the gaps. Why is this not happening? What is it? Whatever this is, that way, But the thing is, very easy to just blame the manager, blame the leader. Oh, you told me to do this, you told me to do that, but then you asked me to do this, you asked me to do that. Oh, but I did show this, but I did do that, right? But there's no organization. Put one thing one place, another thing another place, another thing else here, right? So it's because you don't want to kind of follow. You do as you want to. Okay, I'll put it in here, I'll put it in there. No, you didn't tell me. It was told, right, but you couldn't be bothered. But when it comes to yourselves, right, you don't want to look at the places, or you don't want to be looking at things, right, and so this is what where that disobedience, and when you're picking and choosing what you're doing, and this has consequences. Now let's look in. Are you carrying the burden or adding to it? Galatians chapter 6 verse 2 teaches us to share one another's burdens. And Exodus 18 gives us that extraordinary picture of Moses trying to carry an enormous burden until Jethro tells him that the workload needs to be shared. So think about your workplace. You are brought into a team partly because there is a work that needs carrying. But suppose your leader now has to go to chase you, remind you, check whether you're working, find your mistakes, and where you're disappointed, repeat instructions, chase missed deadlines, investigate problems you didn't report, and eventually redo the work themselves, and ask yourself something uncomfortable. Since I've joined this team, has the burden become lighter or heavier? That's a serious question, right? But that's a serious question, right? Now, many people, okay, they go off to your lunch breaks as and when we want. Okay, I'm going to go to lunch break now. I'm going to appear. So you don't bother reporting it. Your manager comes looking for you, right? Oh, I'm at lunch, and I'm at lunch. I'm not going to kind of like come on to here, right? So you're doing as you please. You walk into the office as you please. You have your lunch when you please. You go off when you please, right? And so then you kind of doing other things that, right? So when you're kind of left until later because you're not listening. You listen when your manager's having meetings with you. You're too busy kind of looking down. You're too busy doing up there. Your mind is elsewhere. You haven't slept properly the night before, right? And so when you come into work, right? You're kind of falling asleep. You're half asleep or whatever that way. That's not your manager's problem. That is your problem, right? That is you, which is not on time, right? And then you're doing other work, you're doing other things, right? You're doing other work and other things, right? In your manager's time, in right, your boss's time, whatever, right? And if it's kingdom work, you're not deceiving what the manager. You're not deceiving the leader. You're deceiving God, right? Right. And so again, Hebrews chapter 13-17 specifically talks about spiritual leaders and warns against making their responsibility unnecessarily burdensome. A leader will naturally experience pressure. Scripture never promises that godly work will be stress-free. Paul experienced tremendous pressure. Jesus experienced anguish. So we're not saying stress means something isn't from God. We're asking, am I unnecessarily adding pressure through behavior I could change? And many times it is behavior that could be changed, right? But the thing is, so look at the deeper than the surface. Don't immediately defend yourself. But I'm trying. But I'm busy. But I've worked all week, right? But it's not my fault the network went down. It's not my fault the electricity went down. It's not my fault the light went off. It's not my fault the sun came down, right? It's not my fault it started raining. That's not the leader's fault either. All these things. Oh, it was traffic, it was this, it was that. Excuses. When you're working, right, whatever, you need to make sure those targets are met, right? And so, it's now 5 o'clock, or 6, or it's 6 o'clock. Oh, I'm only contracted out. I've got to go. You got to finish your job. You got to finish your deadlines. You got to kind of make sure goals are met. Right, so Scripture teaches us self-examination. Lamentations, right, chapter 3, verse 40 says, "Let us test and examine our ways." So examine yourself. What did I actually accomplish this week? What did I leave unfinished? What mistakes did I repeat? What deadlines did I miss? What should I have reported but I did? Did somebody continue have to chase me? Did I listen properly? Did I check my work? Did I take initiative? Did I make the team's burden lighter? What am I going to change next week? That's maturity. But we don't want to do that. I'm home time now. It's a weekend. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. So especially when this is kingdom work, this becomes even more serious. And this is when it becomes, when God gives a vision, one person may receive the vision. But it often takes people working faithfully together to carry it out. Now look throughout Scripture. There were builders, administrators, servants, teachers, helpers, people carrying different responsibility. A team cannot simply sit back and say, well, that's the leader's vision. Let them make it happen. If you've accepted responsibility within that work, you now have something entrusted to you. The leader should lead, but the team has to carry its responsibility. The team has to think. The team has to communicate. The team has to solve problems. The team has to produce. The team has to be faithful. Because if everybody waits for one person to think of everything, check everything, chase everything, and carry everything, you haven't really created a team. You're not part of a team. You created one person carrying everybody else, right? And normally, when it's the leader, when it's your boss carrying everybody else, when you make sure you get paid on time every month, right? And then you sit there. So it's not good just having lip service. Oh, we really appreciate you, really appreciate you. Let your works, faithful works, right? And you let your results, like, they should be speaking louder than words. They should be speaking louder than words, right? And now let's look into who do you think you're really working for? Galatians 3 gives the answer. Ultimately, it is Christ. Your leader might not see, your pastor may not see, your manager might not see, your boss might never discover it, but God does. If you're doing kingdom work and thinking nobody knows, I disappeared, nobody noticed I was late, I'll cover for them, I won't report that, I'll pretend it's finished, I don't need to listen, I'll do it my way, I've been busy, so that's enough. And when you're praying, Lord, use me, and when you're asking for other things, God, give me this, give me that, maybe there's another prayer that you need to come first. Lord, show me where I've been faithful with what you've already given me. Because Luke chapter 16:10 says faithfulness in little things matters. And Galatians chapter 6 verse 7 reminds us that we reap what we sow. So faithfulness, so truth, so diligence, so humility, so teachability, so accountability, so excellence, so reliability, and become somebody that people can genuinely say, I can trust him. So don't finish this week merely asking, was I busy? Ask, was I faithful? Was I fruitful? Was I trustworthy? Did I act with integrity? Did I take responsibility? Did I carry my share of the burden? Did I help the vision move forward? And above everything else, now, and if the results are not there, why? Why results are not there? Why money is not coming in? Why target deadlines have not been thing? So it's like, so when you're kind of doing this, then you need to be making sure that you're moving heaven and earth to make sure that you get things in. You can have, sometimes it's okay, but you can have bad days. But you can't continue having bad weeks and bad months. And if you keep having bad weeks and bad months, then there's something seriously wrong. Something seriously wrong. Now, and then we need to ask ourselves, if Jesus reviewed the way I work this week, would my work honor him? Because your boss may not be watching, your leader may not always be watching, but God is.